the easy response that I saw yesterday was, everybody's like, yeah, that's a killer mentality. You need to have that, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's quoting them and things like that. But, at the same time, like there's a lot like I don't want us to confuse emotional, verbal and, at times literally physical abuse with like the doctrines and standards that make like a championship culture, which is discipline, accountability, and things like that. Like there is a line there, and Michael Jordan was on the extreme end of that, and he was like really, really great, which gave him a pass when it came to doing those kind of things, and he had a team that responded well to it. But not everybody responds well to that. They just don't. Like there's enough studies about the effects of children who come from environments like that at home and things like that to know that not everybody's cool with that.
And one of my takeaways is, right after he was talking about his leadership style, and he said, I was gonna drag you, I was gonna carry you, and either you came with me or you couldn't. And he started tearing up like mid interview and cut to break. So that really caught my eye because it just shows you how passionate he was, to be great, and to expect greatness from others. But to Justin's point, not everyone responds to the same leadership style. And it's one thing when you're Mike and you can go, 3 for 19, and you could come out, shoot 25 shots the next game. But it's another thing for like a Steve Kerr, who's probably going to get 3 attempts from deep, and if he misses one, then it's considered a mistake. I think before you leverage that leadership style on a whole team or whatever, interchangeable parts on the roster, you kind of have to look at each individual and see who responds to what. Some people who don't get a lot of opportunity, they'll be so scared to make a mistake that they'll inevitably make it. And I think that's the biggest thing you want to avoid, because when you're down in the trenches and you're on a deep playoff run, you want all your teammates to have confidence. You might want MJ to come up to you and say, "Hey, I know you missed 2, keep shooting." As opposed to, you can't miss those shots, because then you'll tense up, and I think that's where your competitive edge goes out the window.
I definitely feel what you guys are saying, but at the same time, like you remember what he said, he approached it from the standpoint of, if you can't handle me putting pressure on you, when it come June, when you got everyone on TV talking about you every day, you got 60,000 people yelling it, like you're done. If you can't handle just me, one man in practice, just challenging you, you're not gonna I'm not gonna expect you to even be on the floor come June, because you will have folded by then. I'll know what you're made of by how you responded. And like, again, I feel what you guys are saying. Like, it shouldn't take, and it doesn't always have to take like fist fighting with your teammates to motivate your teammate to do better. Like, there's other ways. But at the same time, like, you do have to, like he said, like, that leadership is a burden. Like, he had to push people to the brink that he felt he was at all times. And like, it may not always be ideal, and nah, everybody can't handle that, but I think that was like kind of the point, is what he was saying.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that. I just think that as his teammate, I get that I'm gonna have to adhere to a certain amount of pressure, but I'm a grown man. So if me adhering to pressure is different from me having to sit here and take disrespect from you in practice. Like, don't pass him the ball in a game situation, or the rumors floating on Twitter, like if Horace Grant had a bad game, he wouldn't let the stewardess give him his meal on the flight home, like stuff like that. Like, I don't think you're mentally weak if you stand up for yourself in those situations, because like I'm grown, like, and like, even like, I do respect Jordan for this. Like, Steve Kerr stood up to him, and he said that earned him respect from Steve Kerr,
Yeah,
that he
like
pushed
he
back on everything.
wanted that. He didn't want,
Yeah.
like, he didn't want you to like
Yes,
back
well, like
down. He
I
wanted you to
do, like I
respond.
do like that he invited the pushback. Like he was trying to piss people off and get people mad. So, um, yeah, I just think like it's an interesting, like it worked for the team he was on, but like for a guy like, if like Dwight Howard was possibly going to be a important piece to a championship team this year, could he have done that if it's Jordan and not Bron? Because we know Bron is not that, and we know Jordan may not tolerate Dwight.
Look at, MJ 2.0, right? Kobe.
Right.
And it didn't go so well with Dwight the first time around
like
because
it wasn't good,
right,
So,
and Kobe kind of had that same mentality, like, look, I'm not going to ask anyone here to do things I'm not doing. I'm going to be the first in the gym and I'm going to be the last one out. And he had
that's what I'm saying.
he had a very authoritarian,
Right. So
style, and look how that impacted Dwight.
Does anybody here think that Dwight Howard cannot be a contributor on a championship level team?
He can.
Of course,
I believe he can. So like that's what I'm saying. So I just don't want the premise to be like, oh, a player who may not want to or may not be able to deal with that or doesn't respond to that is not a winner. A lot of people are associating that with winning. Now it can get you to win if you are on a team that has that culture. That had the Bulls had that culture, and the Bulls had that culture not only because Mike was like that, but because Scottie was the second fiddle. And he responded to it, and then the next guy responded to it, and then Phil was like running that team. So like they had a culture established for that. But a player can still be able to contribute to winning, even if they don't fit that philosophic approach.
I mean, ultimately, the goal is to get people on the floor with you who are ready for war, like who are ready to go, go that extra mile, pretty much.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that. And it is a fine line between you have to treat everybody differently and also the fact that people just have to adhere to a certain standard. Leadership has standards. And one of those standards of leadership is also understanding that as the spear point of anything, you're not going to be liked all the time. Like the mark of a good leader is not being liked all the time. You can't be liked all the time or else you're not doing your job. So at that point, it's a fine line. I don't know where it is, but I would just definitely draw it before punching me in the face or withholding my meals on the flight or the way home.
Yeah, the crazy thing is those are the things that those are the popular stories and stuff that most of us knew already, and it was like, oh, okay, here comes the Steve Kerr fight, here comes that part. But and even my mom keeps telling me when are the parts coming up when Michael was saying oh, I'm gonna hate him, because I don't hate him yet. I'm not seeing stuff that's making me I'm not seeing anything that I really know already. But if you paid attention, a couple of the teammates said they were yo, a few times he crossed the line. And I don't think they actually shared any of the.
I don't think so.
I think they were deeper.
They didn't go
moments.
I think
make it in there.
Yeah,
there were times when he probably talked about your mom and talked about
about your wife. Yep.
He probably went all the way there and just didn't make it in there. So. I mean,
he didn't strike me as having much of a filter. So, I'm sure everything didn't make the cam. And look, to be
he
fair,
had zero filter, and
in every locker room across every, I'm sure Kobe didn't always have beautiful things to say to people either, but that's something, but that also to me shows the measure of that team that still to this day, none of that stuff has come out. You see so many franchises with things like that, and their issues, like Oklahoma City, for example. Draymond's going on a whole world tour right now with their issues just from a season ago. So for it to be years later and we still don't know about certain things, that means they talked it out as a team. That's a championship.
Yeah, and most of them, you hear it, cool coach. Most of them are saying in the end, they're well. It worked. I mean, hell, we won. Yeah. We three-peated. We were winning championships. So they're not going to complain now about how bad it was. Shoot, it worked. We ended up successful. We on TV right now. So something, it worked out for us.
It always starts with the head of the snake, right? MJ. If he didn't build himself up to that stature, if his talent wasn't there, there's no way he'd get away with this, right? So it starts from within. You got to build yourself up, and you got to get yourself to that point. Been listening to a lot of podcasts and living in that time, from mid to late 80s and early 90s, when MJ walked into a room, he was the most important person in that room. It could be celebrities, entertainers, any one of the sort, movie stars or whatever have you, but he built himself up to the point where the end all be all was MJ.